this video, I'm going to give you guys 3 detailing tools that are insanely cheap, I use every day, and dramatically speed me up. The first that I want to talk about are the spray bottles I use, and it's not what you see me using on screen right now. I'll show it in just a second. There are certain areas of the exterior and interior detailing process where you're going to have to use a lot of chemical. Obviously, tires, wheels, wheel wells, engine detailing, these are areas where you're using a lot of, for example, degreaser. My forearm in this video is absolutely on fire. Okay, using a spray bottle in this type of application doesn't make any sense, and one of the primary things we all wonder about, especially in the first few years of detailing in a business, is how do I speed things up? The easiest way to do this is to grab some cheap accessories that are going to speed you up instantaneously without you getting better at your craft at all. And that is why I suggest using a pump sprayer like you see in this video. I'm using it on a white Sequoia that I'm detailing here, and rather than me using my forearm strength to spray over and over again, I'm simply pumping up the bottle, and then I'm holding a button down. And of course, on these pump sprayers, no matter really which one you use, you can either hold the button down or even just lock it into place. Whether I'm doing this on the wheels, tires, and wheel wells, bug detailing, exterior tar removal, lower rocker panels, those are the areas I tend to use this on. This dramatically speeds me up and it gets me better results because these areas require a lot of chemical, and naturally, it's just easier to put more chemical on the area when you're using something like this anyways. Often the chemicals I use for this type of application are going to be things like Dark Fury from Superior Products. I dilute it in a pump sprayer about 10-to-1. I basically have a Dark Fury spray bottle with me all the time, or pump sprayer with me all the time. I will also put in here things like Super Clean in different situations. Most of the time, it's going to be a degreaser that I'm using this on. Like I said, and to repeat myself very quickly, generally the areas I use this on are wheels, tires, wheel wells, bug detailing, lower rocker panels. Those are going to be the exterior uses that I'm generally doing this for. Interior, I almost exclusively reserve a pump sprayer for extractors. The reason for that is because, and this is not for upholstery, but for carpets, if I'm having to extract car carpet, I'm going to be using a lot of chemical, and I'll often put something like DS2 in there if it's kind of this disaster nightmare detail. Now, in addition to a pump sprayer, which kind of has obvious benefits, the next thing that I want to highlight here is a bucket dolly. And if you look at the red Mini Cooper here that I am washing, if you look all the way on the left side of the screen, you will see my wash bucket, and it is on a bucket dolly. This, again, is one of those stupidly simple things, but if you have not thought about it, you will only think about it when you don't have it. If you're washing a car and you don't have a bucket dolly, you're grabbing 2 buckets, moving them around the car, or you're having to wash an area of the car and then come all the way back to wherever your bucket is. It is always easiest to sit it inside of a bucket dolly, and it's one of those things, once again, you do not have to become a better detailer, you don't have to get more customers, you don't have to get more skilled in any way, you don't even have to spend a bunch of money. If you just make these tiny, small, insignificant decisions, it dramatically improves things over time. It's worth saying that when you combine these things on top of each other, you start to seriously save time. One of the things that I want to highlight here that is, again, ultra simple is what I have learned as a professional detailer doing this on a day-to-day basis is, whether you're talking about a pump sprayer or you're talking about a bucket dolly, if you can stack these things on top of each other, it takes up less mental space from you in the detail itself. When I am not using a pump sprayer, when I'm not using a bucket dolly, or the third tool that I'm about to tell you about, it takes up mental capacity as you're trying to detail. You're having to think about something else that's happening, and it ends up sucking some energy from you, and it's kind of a nightmare. And so I'm always trying to figure out, how do I become more efficient in these insignificant ways that are boring and nobody talks about, but it dramatically improves my detailing experience and my speed without really anybody talking about it, because it's not fancy stuff that gets a bunch of views on social media. And finally, the last tool that I want to highlight here is one that I'm using on the interior of this Mercedes G-Wagon here, and that is at the end of my air compressor here, at the end of my air hose here, you can see I've got a very simple air gun. It's from Capri, C-A-P-R-I. It has a rubber tip on the end of it, and it is also, and I'm sure there's a word for this, I just don't know what it is, and you guys will comment below and tell me what it is, but it's got a rubber tip on it. In addition to that, the trigger is such that when you pull it down, it doesn't necessarily release all of the air pressure. You have sort of like these thresholds, so I can pull it down a little bit, kind of like a garden hose sprayer, and I can get a little bit of water out, or a little bit of air out in this case, and if I pull it down all the way, I can get max air out, and there's even a threshold sort of halfway down the trigger, when you pull it, that you can feel it actually goes from like 50% to 100%, and it releases, and you can feel that snap. Again, for the engineers or for the guys who are more knowledgeable than me, I'm sure there's a word for this, so comment below and tell me what it is. But because I've got this sort of like variable trigger where I can get different pressures of air, I can basically only release what I need, right? If I'm using it on the interior, there are areas where you don't want to blast full speed air. You can damage buttons. You can damage interior pieces that are fragile or already a little broken. In addition to that, the rubber tip, again, back to my original point, it's something I don't have to think about hurting anything with. I can touch the area, not touch the area, accidentally hit the window, all that stuff, and I'm never going to damage anything. I try to focus on things where I don't have to become a better detailer. I don't have to become necessarily more skilled. I don't have to stack more things on my plate and get task saturated. I can implement things that basically hedge my stupidity for me, and I don't have to think about it, and it completely eliminates certain errors from ever happening. So guys, those are the 3 things I suggest. I'll link them up all in the YouTube description box below. As always, if you want a full list of what I use professionally, check out the Pro Detailing Toolbox below. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, thanks for watching. Remember, a great detailer is always learning, and I'll see you in the next video.